What is going on, everyone? Badger here. Be sure to like and sub, and let's get into this. Gary was on the Will Cain show. And if you're wondering and asking, Badger, who's Will Cain? I have no idea. I didn't know who he was either, but he's got a show on Fox News, which I see here established in 2021. So he's been going at least that long. But point is, the mainstream, who Gary and the best of us, Gary and Drinker, the mainstream has caught on that they actually get more views than probably any of their news channels. And so they've been having them on, starting with Piers Morgan, of course, which, maybe people can go, wow, it was Piers Morgan. Well, here we go. I mean, I'm sure people go, yeah, but it's Fox News. Who are we talking about? They have noticed that our voices are not just we're not just incels screaming on the internet. We actually might know what we're talking about. So let's go. Let's see what they talk about. Finally getting some headway here.
It feels like we were sort of in a golden age of entertainment. It was almost too much to watch. And then almost it felt like overnight, everything turned to crap. Let's discover why. Let's discuss what happened with Nerdrotic. Now on the Will Cain show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel. It's also on the Fox News Facebook page. Hit subscribe, and you can watch any of our, for example, debates. Earlier this week, by the way, with Rebecca Heinrichs of the Hudson Institute over the war in Ukraine, responding to our conversation, debate with David Sachs, former COO of PayPal over the war in Ukraine, or a debate with liberal streamer Destiny from a week ago. Just hit subscribe right now on YouTube. Here's a comment. Sarah Gold, by the way, you comment. We'll interact with you. We want to hear your comments. Whoa. Gary's going mainstream now. So Gary Beekler is also Nerdrotic. He's one of the biggest streamers on YouTube across the internet. He's got well over 1 million subscribers. He reviews pop culture.
They boomered it and they put up double screen. See, you think we're the unprofessionals. It's an inside joke.
He reviews gaming and entertainment, and he's been doing it for quite some time. Gary, I don't know. This is you going mainstream. This might be me going mainstream on YouTube.
That's right.
I don't know about that. I just went to Vegas. I put on a couple pounds, so that's the only bigger I feel right now. But yeah, and anybody who watches me knows I'm a huge gaming fan, massive gamer.
He said it all
the time. No, you were talking earlier about like where all this started. And as far as the customer movement, I hate the word consumer.
I mean, no homo myself. Gary, your hair looks good. Mel, you did a really good job. That's his wife.
It really did start with Gamergate, right? Gamergate has some very nefarious origins that we don't need to get into, but ultimately it was a customer movement. It was fan.
I'm assuming he's alluding to Zoe Quinn and the unaliving that she caused of several people.
And going, I've loved this stuff for so long, and something feels a little off. All of a sudden, you hate us. And the royal you here is the gaming industry and some of the designers and mostly the journalism.
And the movie industry. He could have been talking about the movie industry too.
Entertainment journalism has been a poison, has been cancer to fandom for well over a decade now, when it used to be just, hey, let's review a game or let's review a movie or a comic book. And then it became, the biggest problem here is the fans, obviously the toxic fans.
Yeah, we're all bigots, and there's a delay, clearly. Yeah,
you know what actually that makes me think immediately, Gary? So before I was at Fox, I don't know how familiar you are with me or my career, and I don't assume that you need to be or are, but I was in sports for 5 years. I was at
I sort of like this guy. God bless him for being on the point. Yeah, good for you, man.
ESPN, and I had the Will Cain show on ESPN, and I don't know that I rationalized an analogy to what you just described in gaming, but I could instinctively feel this. I came at sports from the prism of a fan. Look, I wasn't a pro athlete and I wasn't a sports journalist. And one of the things I noticed was the antipathy towards the fan in sports. It's like, everything became an attack on the fan. And before you know it, every fan playing the, what's the game where the circle game became making a white supremacist symbol, right? And then every fan's a racist.
Oh, and he means when you do the OK symbol below your, I'll tell you what, that is a game we used to play. I've talked about it before doing this YouTube full time. I used to work, I was a chef in several places. Anyway, behind the house, back of house, we would play this game all the time. You would put the OK symbol below your waist. If someone saw it, like if you got them to look at it, you got to punch them. It's a kid's game. It means white supremacy, purely made up by 4chan. Purely made up by 4chan.
But it was driven by, it felt like the sports journalists who hated the people that are actually, as you point out, the customers of the entire business, the entire model of sports.
They could be talking about.
I wanted to sit on my show on like, hey, like I love fans. Like fans are what makes this thing go around, not just like from a business standpoint, but from a passion standpoint. Like I'm a passionate fan. And why do you hate the passionate fan of sports? It's fascinating that journalism did the same thing in gaming.
They see passion as toxicity and hate. Shout out to Henry Cavill for correcting that one urinalist about this.
Journalism recognized early that the fan was eventually, whether it was subliminal or not, the fan was eventually going to become their competition because thanks to social media, good or bad, we're more connected now than ever. And our opinions are out there, right or wrong. And so many of us are not afraid to give them now. And that really bothers creatives. And that really bothers the journalists who had a lot of power over the creatives. The creatives basically had to go to them to get their thing pushed out. And
ironically, the gatekeeping they accuse us of.
It was a very symbiotic relationship for a long time. I use the term shill because that's mostly what they were. We weren't getting honest opinions pretty much ever, right? And then when guys like myself or my friend Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers,
shout out Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers,
or all my co-hosts on Friday Night Tights, were just guys in our rooms filled with way too many toys, just expressing our opinions, going, like, we used to really love this stuff. We want to still love this stuff. And all we were met with every time we legitimate criticisms, by the way, we might flare it with a little comedy or failed comedy in my case, but it was honest. It was authentic. And that's the one thing Hollywood's having a hard time dealing with. The AAA gaming companies are having a hard time dealing with, and media overall is having a hard time dealing with, is authenticity. And that's what people are looking for.
Because they don't actually give a shit about any of these properties, any of them. It's only used as a vessel, as a method, as a vector to get their ideology, which also no one cares about, and their belief system into the things that people do care about. And that's just worked out horribly.
In art, in criticism, and just basic opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to come back to the gaming foundations of this for a moment, but I want to kind of set up, see if you accept my premise that I said before you came in. And I'll say this as someone who wasn't coming at it from a critical standpoint. I was just a consumer or a customer, right? It did feel, at least in pop culture.
I like that he made the distinction between customer and consumer. You don't just mindlessly consume, but you are a customer. You do spend your money on things that are important or of value or of interest to you, but you're not a mindless, just that's what they want. Just consume, great product, consume, wait for next product. Yeah.
Like we were a little bit in a golden age, right? Especially in television. So in the 90s, I would say movies were the thing. And I don't know if we were in a golden age of movies or not, but
yes. Go look at the year 1994 on IMDb and some of the greatest movies back to back of all time.
It felt like I used to go to the movies all the time. Now I never go to the movies, but it transitioned to television, and it felt like we always had something good to watch there for about a 10, maybe even a 15-year period. Like from The Sopranos to The Wire to Breaking Bad to whatever, it was always something good going on. But the reason I want you to check that premise is that was also a world that predated sort of the fan-driven feedback on those things. Like it was before social media, mid 2000s, because, whatever, Twitter takes off in like 2009, 10.
He's right, but it's like social media is both the poison and the cure at the same time. Yeah, it is because you had a lot more of the vocal that you would have normally not paid attention to that got it. But, you know, a lot of the good also came from social media as well.
YouTube a little before.
Maybe I'm biased, you know.
Or that probably. Do you think I was deluded during that period that it was a golden age, or was it truly a golden age?
I'll say it was a golden age. It was a golden age. I don't care if it's hindsight is 2020. We were in a golden age.
And for some reason, even though they still had the journalist gatekeepers, they were making better content.
It was a golden age, and it was the end of the golden age. I mean,
I was gonna be like, please don't tell me I'm dumb for saying what I just said.
I mean, there's been forums going back 20 years, and that's where fandom had been relegated to. And fandom, particularly with fandom, not just, you know, with shows, you know, general audience shows. That was very niche. That's kind of where it needed to stay. But yeah, we had a brilliant run of HBO shows, premium format shows, and that was supposed to be the future. That really was. And that ended 2015, 2016. Now,
what happened in 2016?
We can all assume what happened that year when Hollywood went crazy, but that's where they really put their foot on the gas pedal on woke Hollywood, driving in the message. And that's where we started hearing like insert here theory, CRT or alphabet theory, as I call it. And that's
critical race theory, which would have once been kept only in the what ifs of legal law theory. That's when you would talk about the critical racism regarding like law and theory and all that, not your everyday lives and systematic racisms everywhere.
That's really where it started getting pushed. I mean, it had its origins earlier, but no, we were just getting good, normal shows because there was talented people creating them. And what Hollywood has done and what gaming has tried to do but can't, and definitely comics, nobody reads comics anymore, is they've pushed out all the talented people with diversity hires. And
they used Me Too to do it, unfortunately. Shout out Jennifer Lee. You did a good job ousting John Lasseter.
Now we have a bunch of inexperienced, untalented people who are in Hollywood, you know, directors are cast now. They're not hired, they're cast. And shows are produced, they're not created anymore. And that's the problem. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, way too many producers, there's too many rules, there's a slavish adherence to it, and now it's a contractual adherence to the message.
Every single studio, including Amazon, which we're seeing with one of the reasons why they're making female custodies, is so that they can meet their own inclusion standards of 3 out of 5 of on-screen representation from an underrepresented group, blah, 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 blah. And it's also one of the reasons why they're not so focused on you would think, like, don't they want to make money? Well, they're getting money. They're getting easy, free money as long as they hit their ESG scores, regardless if their racist, bigoted audience doesn't see their movies anyway. But that is drying up, which is why it's so important that we deny them the satisfaction and money going forward.
That has absolutely destroyed art. You know, Jerry, we'll probably talk about that. Jerry Seinfeld broke that down perfectly recently.
Yeah.
Again, and this is not an old argument.
Yeah, let's talk about Jerry Seinfeld.
Good segue, Jerry.
I'm always like, I asked you
Jerry.
to check my premises. I always like to like push back on myself. Like, okay, if I hear something I really like and I tend to agree with, then I kind of almost want to play devil's advocate.
And that makes me trust him even more. You should always try and steel man or straw man both arguments. See it from all sides, especially when you're streaming. You're always like, okay, if I say this, what are the counter arguments that someone could, like, maybe I can suss that out in my own brain before I say something stupid and someone says an obvious point.
Get with myself. Okay, are you sure you got this right? So I hear Jerry Seinfeld say, you know, the problem with comedy is it's all run by a boardroom now, and the boardroom is run by a mentality, like you just said, not just a mentality, but like we got to check the DEI boxes. We got to ensure that the comedy passes doesn't offend the wrong people test. And I hear all that, and I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely true. But then pushing back on myself, Gary, I say, well, what about South Park? What about Curb Your Enthusiasm? Not politically correct. And I think that Jerry did go on in that interview to say that Larry David was grandfathered in to that, and so would South Park have been. But what about, and maybe the same could be said for Mostly Sunny in Philadelphia. It's been around long enough to have survived this shift in entertainment. But I know I saw Shane Gillis I think he's getting a new deal, right? A new show or something like that. He's sort of been embraced. And as entertainment fractures and you have different outlets, I just wonder if it's true. Maybe is Jerry just talking about like ABC, CBS, and NBC and networks? Or now that we have so many different outlets, are we actually still capable of getting that stuff just more in fractured places?
And before he answers, I will say that they're starting to return to that male gaze, GAZE, because they're realizing that was where all the money was at. So some groups are fracturing and realizing, but like Disney, for example, they are never going to turn around and course correct. They will continue to double down until I don't know, until we all riot and we force them out peacefully.
Yeah, it's being decentralized. What Jerry says in he's had 2 articles come out, but what he says in one of them is, stand-up comedy's still alive, it's still thriving, but it's thriving.
If you're in Texas and you're in Joe Rogan's group, you go to the Comedy Mothership, yeah, it's thriving
in stand-up because you have no middlemen. The audience is right there, and if you screw up, right away. And that's what more people, that's authenticity is the currency of the future. That's what more people are looking for. You've got a chat going right now that you're interacting with. That's what people are moving to. But comedy, what Jeremy is, why do I keep saying Jeremy?
Geeks and Gamers.
Jeremy's going to laugh, my friend Jeremy. Jerry Seinfeld said, basically it's dead in Hollywood. It's dead in Hollywood. If you go back and look at the rated R comedy.
By the way, we told them that would happen.
The last one, we just had Anyone But You, right? Really mid comedy, made over $200 million. That was the first rated R comedy to make over $200 million since 2016. And by the way, that comedy was Bridget Jones' Baby to make you even more depressed. But like we don't get The Hangover anymore. We don't get Dodgeball.
I saw it.
Yeah. So, I mean,
why did a big fancy actual Fox News, and they're on, like, this is their YouTube. Why is there a delay? Well, we can stream, whatever.
We don't
real quick. I saw Anyone But You on an airplane, and I'm curious it's not good. It's not good. But I do think, like, for a lot of guys who you and I probably have some very similar views on a lot of things. Like Sydney Sweeney has been adopted, and she definitely has her assets. But Sydney Sweeney has been adopted as this like anti-woke thing. And then there was that producer who's like, I don't get the Sydney Sweeney thing,
which I'm all right with. And even Sydney she seems actually sort of fun and authentic. And she's into cars, and she had this sweater that said, "Sorry, I have nice tits." And she seems into the joke. I like her. I mean, I like her, and I like her. She seems nice.
She's not a good actress and all that. I mean, Anything But You is not going to be Sydney Sweeney's nomination into, no, I'm actually really good. Check this movie out.
No, she has become a huge star off of a massive flop, Madam Web, and her attitude after it, which was really good. And she's really hot. And yes, I can think of a couple of reasons why Anyone But You did well. But other than that, it was a complete fantasy. For one,
I mean, shout out to Glenn Powell too. He's from Second Maverick, Top Gun. It was a heteronormative romance comedy romance. Like, had been around a while. We had nothing but The Message for quite some time.
It's all centered around a lesbian destination wedding. So the fact that they stayed,
the 2 protagonists were heteronormative
together that long. Yeah. Was the joke of the film. But I think it's great that I've been putting her on my thumbnails. What the hell? It works. No shame to my game. But I think it's just people want, we need to.
And we put Gary on thumbnails, so no shame to anyone's game. It's for the algorithm.
Like, stop hot phobia. My friend Chris Gore coined that term. Stop hot phobia. We've had this, especially in video games. They're trying to make everybody ugly. It's like, bring back hot women. It's a good thing. Makes people happy. Men and women.
Yep.
Well, and if we're being authentic to your point, I mean, that's why I watched, and that's why I stuck around for 2 hours. Yeah. It's a lot of Sydney Sweeney. And it keeps your attention. So yeah. So back to Jerry Seinfeld, though. You think are we seeing a market correction though? So you say stand up is a way for the talented person to reach directly to the audience and not have it be filtered through a boardroom, right? Do you think those other examples that I gave are all just grandfathered into what happened? Always Sunny, Curb Your Enthusiasm, South Park, they're just grandfathered in. Will we ever see another one now that we have so many options in terms of distribution?
I think we definitely will. It won't come out of maybe Hollywood right away, but we definitely will, and then they will again once they see it, because they're cowards. Once they see it safe, yeah.
There's more boardrooms, but with more boardrooms, you presumably have more opportunity for better boardrooms, right? So will we see more of those types of shows?
I don't think so. I think Jerry even talks about this in a later in the interview, that he says Curb was grandfathered in, and absolutely South Park was grandfathered in. Always Sunny, brilliant show, grandfathered in. But these are all shows in like multiple seasons. I think Always Sunny is going to be up to 18 at some point. South Park is at 26. And if you go back and look, what dominated streaming last year? Shows that were over a decade old. Suits like ruled the summer, and also on that list there's a top 10 list with like one new show, and you see older comedies including Seinfeld. So
if we lose, we'll never see it again. In other words, if this is it, if the DEI initiatives continue forever and they just keep making the same shit, if we get the quality and consistency of the writing and storytelling and themes is the same from the last 5 years from now on, well, then that's it. Yeah, you're right. We won't get another one like that. But if we're able to win, if we're able to at least sizably, which it's the more people understand about it, the more it looks like we're winning. Yeah, we will be able to get movies like Hangover again and the shows like South Park.
There's still an audience.
At least on our side, we'll make it. The fans will make it themselves. The Iron Age.
To answer for it, there's still an audience for superhero movies. There's still an audience for movies. There's still an audience for comedy, and they're just finding other places for it. Like you said, it's fracturing, and that's good. We need entertainment completely decentralized. I'm all for it. That's why, again, like some of the most interesting things happening right now are in stand-up comedy, and most people aren't seeing it because you'll have to go. I was privileged enough to pay a lot of money, overpay for a ticket to go see the opening of the Mothership, Joe Rogan's The Mothership in Austin. And I got to see Joe Rogan, Dave Chappelle, and it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
They put your phones in yonder bags, which you can't access them. So that way people can do all their edgy material and practice and all that. And it doesn't end up on the YouTube, although sometimes it does.
So I think comedy is... It's a sign that Hollywood is dying, because they've completely abandoned the one thing that they were built on. Their first movie star was Chaplin, technically, and comedy is the one thing that pushes the boundaries, that puts a mirror to society and to Hollywood. And unfortunately, all Hollywood wants to do it. Like, I'm fine with them putting a mirror to society, but right now they're
only putting it on one side, and it's like with the sun behind it. It's got a laser. Yeah.
A lens to society. And they always bring up that term lens, and it really comes from one source, and it's getting tiresome. And there's this huge divide between the audience and corporate Hollywood, corporate gaming, corporate comics, corporate news, everything right now. And
but it's the same source on all of those. That's why I talk about we are facing a constant, and this is sort of what Sargon of Akkad on A Critical Drinker was just talking about. We are facing a constant barrage of attacks on every single front, unified, and with every single position of power against us and calling us bigots and incels.
They're going to have a hard time dealing with,
well, obvious exceptions,
it as we can talk to each other more.
Well, look, I take a huge amount of inspiration. I'm the person that jokes that, Gary's going mainstream. I mean, I work for Fox, but I take a huge amount of inspiration from you. And even though I totally disagree with him on something like a streamer like Destiny, because, and I can't speak to every opinion and I can't speak to every show and everyone, but there is a sense of authenticity, a lack of polish. The comments are coming in right now and I want to interact with them. And
authenticity is everything. It is. everything. So one thing I've heard Gary say a billion times, and the one thing I've taken to heart clearly when I leave in little mistakes or I don't cut something out, like he said.
That's my goal for this show. It was when I had that radio show on ESPN. It's just like, I want to be, I don't want to speak down and at people. I want to speak with people, right? And
that's what's up.
But I need you to do something for me. So, like, I'm not a gamer. I'm like every
Neither
kid.
is Gary.
I played Tecmo Bowl. I played Madden. I played
Look at his face.
NHL hockey through the 90s. But I never was into fantasy games. I think I played James Bond for some first-person shooter back in the day a little bit.
GoldenEye, baby.
But you know what I liked about that game, Gary, is I liked that my buddies and I could all get in
Gary didn't play it because I believe he was in prison at the time.
a room together and then trash talk each other and do that and compete against each other. So we never moved to sort of the online. Oh, I did Call of Duty for a little bit.
Gary didn't.
But we talked about
so uncomfortable.
the shift from the golden age to where we got, and you pinpointed like 14, 15. And that is like the rough timeline of Gamergate. So what I'm getting at with my lack of knowledge when it comes to gaming is I'm not all the way plugged in on Gamergate. But it does seem to have been the canary in the coal mine of everything that
Gary does know about Gamergate. I'm laughing because he really doesn't play. I think he played like Lord of the Rings on the PlayStation 2. It's disparate. Not disparate. I'm probably saying it wrong. Either way, yeah, he's not a huge gamer.
Then unfolded after that. Can you just can you just give me the cliff notes on it? I know you could do not just a show, but you could do, and you have done, episodic seasons on Gamergate, but can you give me the cliff notes of what went down?
Well, I'm not a massive gamer either, but I am a massive nerd, and most of my friends are. So Gamergate starts with a woman who slept with a few journalists to get some positive reviews. That's pretty much it. But it turns into there is a lot of intersectionality invading games. And it really sparked a whole cottage industry on YouTube, and it really sparked this criticism of calling out woke culture.
It showed a connection, the same connection that is still ongoing, and some of the same people between journalists and these DEI and all DEI agenda and narrative consultancy companies, and there's a lot of collusion going on. Let's say that much.
Wasn't really even called that back then. Maybe it was. This is before my time on YouTube. Then it kind of dies out because a lot of the voices in there either fade away or they turned it out to be a bunch of frauds.
Or they use the money from someone who unalived themselves because of Zoe Quinn to start a company that then starts giving out grants to groups, and maybe they called themselves like Weird Ghosts or something like that.
Still a lot that are still around. There's Razor Fist, there's Sargon, there's a lot of guys who are still around right now. The people spearheading it now, I would say my friend Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, Cabrutus, Grummz out there on Twitter, but
Nerd Wars. Shout out Erwin from Nerd Wars.
So it bled into comic books and then sci-fi and fantasy books. This is the one that's lesser known. It was called the Sad Puppies Incident, and it was basically a bunch of cultural Marxists invading sci-fi and fantasy.
And that's basically what it is. That when you strip right down to it, when you take away the fancy words, when you separate the World Economic Forum and all the fun things they're doing with it, it's essentially just neo-Marxism attacking on every front.
Taking over the awards and not awarding anybody who doesn't have the politics. And it's way deeper than that. Again, in comic books, it turned into half the industry needed to employ women because of a 2014
equity
Facebook poll that said that, hey, women are interested in comics too. Half the population is a potential customer. Wow, great science right there. So they decided to get rid of all the old guys, bring in a bunch of girls who didn't know anything about comics, and dudes too, and completely destroyed mainstream comics to the point where manga is absolutely dominating them. And then, it started creeping in the movies as well. And I think the two best examples are Disney Star Wars, which I would argue has never been good, and Disney Marvel, which was great, which was the greatest franchise of all time, did something that will never be done again, had 20 plus movies that were varying degrees of mid to really good. You know, a couple stinkers, but like I would watch the stinkers over anything we've got post Endgame. And over the last 5 years, especially with Star Wars, anything associated with Disney, we've seen this steep decline because it's turned into product, and the fans were calling it out. The fans were calling it out with comics. The fans were calling it out with gaming. The fans were calling out in sci-fi, and they were all being met with the same responses.
You're bigots, you're racist, transphobes. You're just mad that Han Solo gave the Millennium Falcon to Rey, to a woman. You're racist. You're misogynist. It's fucking for almost a decade. It feels on everything. If you say anything against the message, that's what is said to you. To the point where we're all so fucking numb to it that Hypnotic literally names his community the bigot army, and that he's the leader of the fucking bigot army. That's the level we've come to. All right. You've ruined every word. You call everyone Nazis. It means nothing anymore.
You're a racist. You're a bigot. You're a white supremacist. You're a misogynist, blah, 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 blah. Right. And then about 5 years later, after Endgame ends, it turns out, wow, gaming did go woke. Comics did go woke. And guess what? It all turned to crap. You know,
so fucking sick of being right.
Look at the steep decline. We even right after Spider-Man No Way Home, we had Doctor Strange Mom made almost $1 billion. The last movie they just released, The Marvels, just made 206 million worldwide. That's a pretty quick decline. And it's not the fans' fault, it's the quality. So yeah, it's going on. It's getting old. It's going on for over a decade. And as far as Hollywood is concerned, we're in post-apocalyptic woke Hollywood. As far as gaming,
look now. Trust me, I came in with a lot of gray hair, but I swear to God, in just a short time we've been dealing with this, it's gotten worse.
It's ramped up there because they've already destroyed Hollywood comics and everything else. They have nowhere else to go. Just to wrap this up, sorry, I went a little long, but with Gamergate 2.0,
cool. Yeah,
which started last year, arguably, my friend Az from Heel versus Babyface had a Starfield rant about pronouns that went mega viral, and that really kind of ramped things up, and people started looking into things. Cabrutus on Steam created this aggregate, which is the Sweet Baby Ink detector. Sweet Baby Ink is a third-party company.
Sweet Baby Ink detected.
That basically goes
and now has DEIdetected.com
over your story and makes it woke. You know, they
really,
it's a giant grift. Yes,
they don't. Yes, they make it woke a lot of the times, and they'll make it even woker. But most of the times, the companies are already corrupted. They've already wokeified it themselves, and they're calling in these consultancy companies to further wokify it.
So, I mean, that's putting it in very simplest terms, but they help write your story so you can put in underrepresented, marginalized groups.
Which tantamount to, like, have you tried making your black and gay?
Basically makes women fat, ugly lesbians in most of the games. We just assume they're lesbians. We don't know all the time. They're the ones who always, you know, put compelled pronouns, or even the fact that there's pronouns there when you're playing a video game. And yeah, gamers are sick of it, but they're failing. And there's a lot more companies, and there's a lot more to it, but they're failing because gaming is decentralized. So they can go and do it on the AAA games all they want. So this is where gamers are completely winning. So
AAA games moratorium for 2 years. Don't buy any. Shout out, except for like at the time, the Stellar Blades, which I guess we're still going with that. Free Stellar Blade, #free Stellar Blade. You buy the physical, but don't play it online. Cancel your PlayStation pluses. But the point is, for the most part, yeah, deny. Play your back catalog.
Now it's ramped up crazy. It is Gamergate 2 is getting as crazy, if not crazier, than Gamergate 1. Because for one, the gamers are winning, and the gaming journal.
And if we're not outright winning, we're giving them what for? We're giving as good as we're getting. I'll tell you that much. And it's unfortunate because you're seeing again. We just saw 2 gaming subsidiary companies go out of business.
Is just so bad right now that they're desperate for attention, and it's almost like their old trick of stirring things up and gaslighting isn't even working anymore. You know, and
we're desensitized.
We have editors from Kotaku, you know, who have OnlyFans
Shout out Alyssa McCunty. We're gonna be. I got a video about her. It's releasing after this in like 4 hours.
Trying to, call people. Stellar Blade's the latest one, which is nuts. It's got just this really voluptuous hot woman
Based on a real woman.
and it's a good game. So you have a female lead and a good game, and now the journalists are complaining about it when they were calling us the misogynists. Just because.
So because we like it, right? They can't paint us as misogynists, right? But now they can. Oh, they're ugly. It's like porn for them. So they could be upset that we're sexualizing.
We enjoy the female form,
even though they sexualize when it comes to like Hades too.
As it should be.
The parallels
Ridiculous.
to sports they're really, really interesting. So I think you brought up cultural Marxism, and that's a thing, and we've talked about it a lot right here. It's an ideologically driven thing that is.
It is the main ideology behind every fucking decision.
Populated corporations. There's also something more shallow at play, because I don't think every single person participating in this understands. They may be inadvertently participating.
And yeah, it's a lot of groupthink, and there's narcissism is a prime example in a lot of cases, 100%.
Participating in cultural Marxism, but they're certainly not going home saying, what we need to do tomorrow. There's also this mentality of we've got to be everything to everybody. So what happened in sports is real similar to what you said. Hey, we've got a lot of women fans that like football, and we should grow it. We should grow that. So we start leaning into different things in sports to attract women to sports. Okay, on the surface, that's fine. And at the risk of making them all mad, this was kind of my thing with Taylor Swift. Like Taylor Swift being forced into the NFL entertainment ecosystem. The problem isn't really Taylor Swift. It's that you're just trying to be everything to everybody. And when you try to be everything to everybody,
you appeal to nobody.
You alienate the core audience that was there in the first place. You lose who you are. So to be real, your average hardcore NFL fan doesn't need 10 shots of Taylor Swift during a game. We don't need that storyline. We don't need all of that.
I'd take 10 shots at her. Hey-o.
And if you make us think that that's the most important thing happening around the game, then you alienate us while you attempt to attract everybody into the tent. And you could see the same thing on the homepage of ESPN.com. It's like, oh, you like NBA? Here's some WNBA shoved right at your throat. You like the NCAA tournament? I've got 10 headlines for you on the women's tournament. And it's just like, you're just shoving things at me that don't reflect the reason I'm here in the first place, my fandom. And forget about reflect. You've minimized the reason I'm here. Or in worst cases, you've patronized or
Star Wars?
Villainized the reason I'm here, to your point earlier.
Of power?
I'm a villain, or I'm bigoted, or I'm small-minded. Maybe so. But I did want to watch some dudes. I did want to have a beer and watch some dudes compete to win a game. That was why I came.
You want to watch some dudes?
Yeah, and have fun. What's the common denominator here, by the way? Marvel, Disney, ESPN. Oh, it's Disney. But it's happened everywhere. I mean, it's when beer goes woke, like it's getting a little out of control, don't you think?
Yeah.
From beer to tabletop RPGs, it has literally gone everywhere.
But I used to be a massive football fan. I used to watch ESPN all the time. Now it wasn't going woke because I'm a Charger fan. I'm a San Diego Charger fan, and I hate Dean Spanos because he ripped my team out of my city. But no, I can't. I don't watch a single second of football now. I don't miss it at all. I like having my Sundays free. But that's what this.
By the way, most people are just gone. They watch YouTube. Yeah,
this takeover does. It makes you hate what you loved. These things I loved. I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. I love Doctor Who. I love Marvel Comics. I like all the old stuff. I don't want anything to do with the new stuff anymore. And to make a comic collector of over 40 years, quit collecting comics.
The amount of people on Warhammer in the comments are like, nah, I see what they're doing. I'm done buying it. Fuck, I'll play the old stuff.
New comics. That is a testament to your commitment to failure. Thankfully, the only reason it won't work in gaming again is because it's such a massive industry. It's spread around the world. And that's what needs to happen. If any of this is going to survive, if any movies or TV films, and they will, by the way, it's going to have to be decentralized. And Americans will probably have to change their tastes and start watching more Eastern entertainment and stuff. And some of it
Shout out to all the Korean dramas.
It's pretty damn good, you know. So it'll always be there. I don't know if Hollywood will be.
I want to come back to that so we can end on a positive note. But one more thing on this, like, again, because my prism of gaming, and I know we're not exclusively focused on gaming, it's more about as an illustration. Yeah. My sons play, you know, they're big into soccer and they play FIFA mostly. And I know you see what FIFA has done. So they, you know, they have player ratings, right? And so Messi is a high, you know, he's in the 90s. And, you know, if you not draft, but if you play with the team in the MLS, your ratings are like in the 60s. It's just not as good. So they're balancing skill, and it's complicated, like in a good way. Like this guy has speed, this guy has touch, right? And so a lot goes into, and the players care about their ratings, just like they do in Madden or NBA 2K. Well, no one would pick the women's teams, right? Because the ratings are like in the 50s. So you never want to play with the women's team.
That's because they're misogynist.
Maybe obviously. At best 50s.
They hate women.
So they normalize the ratings. So now, like, the best women's teams have ratings in the 80s and 90s. And now I've said to my son go, should we play with the U.S. women's national team against, you know, Manchester City? I'm like, why would we do that? You know, and he's like, well, look at the ratings. And so it's like forcing me in a really fake way to choose to play with women.
Which is then a skewed version of reality where we had a high school soccer team beating like the women's national.
And when it's not reflective at all, sports is not fantasy. I mean, it is to some degree. But the reason I choose one team versus another, because the skill set over here is better than the
they don't like meritocracy
skill set over there. And it's what I actually see take place on TV. It's not so I can like, make the U.S. Or make, I don't even know the names of the women's soccer teams in the U.S., but so I can make them, you know, win the champions.
No one does, Will.
I think
no one
this
does.
is what's happening, what you've described here. I think it's what's happening with FIFA.
Women can't describe any soccer team, or they don't know any names of any soccer teams, women's soccer teams in the U.S. Did you see that MLB trailer where they have women playing baseball? We reacted to that. That was
I heard about
funny.
It. Yeah.
That was funny. God. Yes, they're forcing it, and it is becoming fantasy, which just, as you said, just completely destroys the entire concept of sports. You know, the authenticity, the reality of it, not knowing what's going to happen. You know,
the will controls your reality.
And gaming is what they're hyper focused on, and it's going to be in the conversation for easily another year, because as more, you know,
we'll be here for it.
Gamers do not mess with gamers. They have a lot of time on their hands. They'll weaponize.
You picked the wrong one.
Their autism
isn't gaming.
They will find stuff, and they have, and it's been great. It's been absolutely great. Do not.
Shout out problematic white guy John. You have the definition of weaponized autism and finding things in the dark.
Not mess with that. It's, you know, we saw the fandom starting to fight back early on with like Rings of Power when that terrible show came out. The Tolkien fandom like said, no way, we're not putting up with this, and that was great to see. And now we're seeing, you know, there's so much clapback. You know, the Mufasa trailer just got ratioed on YouTube.
Acolyte trailer got ratioed. Star Wars Outlaws trailer got ratioed,
and which was hilarious. But like,
I saw you posting that.
Gamers are a different beast that are not to be messed with, and it's going to be great. I'm actually, it's been a lot of fun to watch. It's been a lot of fun to watch them fight back and save their hobby and find other, you know, for one, they don't need AAA at all. Not at all. There'll be enough independent games to where either these, I don't know, corporations just don't change on a dime. So you're seeing a lot of games bury smaller companies, and maybe that finally buries a corporation, or it makes its conglomerate give up on it. I don't know, but I think the fans are going to win this one ultimately.
Oh, that's good. I have hope. And as Erwin and from Nerd Rage, we always say, Nerd Rage will save the world. The collected Nerd Rage will save the world.
Well, to your point of gaming, I believe I have the stats right. It's bigger than the movie, music, and something else. It could be sports. I don't know. Not sports, I don't think. Industries combined. Like, it's huge. People our age, Gary, who aren't into gaming, don't appreciate how huge that market is. So here's the positive note I want to end on with you really quickly. I said this on my show last week. Like, I feel like I've watched everything. I haven't, but I don't have anything anymore that I want to watch. So I'm going to lean on you to tell me what I'm missing out there that I need to put on my list to watch. Just give me 2 or 3 like things.
Go watch The Gentleman on Netflix, the television series, The Gentleman.
I saw you tweeting about Rebel Moon. I think it was
Don't watch
negative,
Rebel Moon.
which I didn't
It's
watch.
horrible.
I watched
Don't
Dune
watch
1. I
Rebel
didn't
Moon.
watch
Go
Dune
watch-
2.
Dune 2 is good.
Just go mow your
Horrible.
lawn or something. Get an early, start your taxes early. No. Okay. What is good that I have seen right now? The Gentleman is the best show I've seen in a long time. That is on Netflix. It's from Guy.
I'm so glad he brought it up first because it's a. You want to know what a 10 out of 10 is? That is a 10 out of 10.
Guy Ritchie, and it's better than any of the movies
Watched
he's
it.
put out the last couple of years. It feels very Guy Ritchie. It is great. Shogun, very good.
Yep.
Very good.
Haven't
I won't
watched
say
yet. I
great, I'll say
will.
very good. And House of the Dragon season 2 is just around the corner.
House of the Dragon season 1 was good. Watch it. I know Game of Thrones season 8 sucked.
I loved House of the Dragon season 1, and I hated the end of Game of Thrones. I thought season 8 was some of the worst television, the worst dive of a television show of all time, and I think it's a miracle that they came back and did something
Different showrunner, different production crew, so a whole different shebang.
that could end up arguably being better. So there's War of the Rohirrim, an anime Lord of the Rings film, is coming out at the end of the year, and of course there's Deadpool and Wolverine. That'll probably be pretty good. So there's some good stuff.
All right, so I saw House of Dragon 1, loved it. So I'll be in on House of Dragon 2. I watched The Gentleman.
Jesus,
yeah,
he has
really
seen
fun.
everything.
I like Guy Ritchie stuff. So yeah, I enjoyed that. I haven't seen Shogun, so the new one there for
There you
me is
go.
Shogun to check out.
Watch Fallout if you like the games. Still iffy on recommending Fallout for people who don't know anything about the games, but people are liking it when they don't know anything. It's just a lot of references.
And I'll be checking out your reviews, man. Nerdrotic
Cool.
on YouTube, huge. Yeah, huge audience, over 1 million. Man, I really appreciate you giving me so much time today. It's been
Thank
fun to
you,
get to
Will.
know you and have this conversation. Thank you.
It was
Yeah.
great to talk to you. Take
All
care.
right, there he goes.
Wow. Okay. I didn't expect to react to that whole thing. Almost 47 minutes. Let me know if you stayed the whole time, you're a little bit of a psychopath, but I love you for that because I stayed the whole time because I had to. But no, that was really good. Shout out. I love the fact that Gary is getting, I can't wait until him and Drinker get on even more of these shows because it's not that we're the mainstream now or going mainstream. But mainstream is now recognizing the game. Basically, they're recognizing the power and pull of the community, the fellowship, the critical drinker. So yeah, let me know what you think of this. Make sure to like, share, and sub. If you have done that, thank you. If you're gonna do that, thank you. And
Well, bye.